Welcome into the Atlanta Football Party. I'm Jarvis Davis. Coming up on today's show, what about Anthony Weaver?
This is Locked On Sports Atlanta, and it's time for the Atlanta Football Party, only on Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Atlanta Football Party. I'm Jarvis Davis, your humble host. And I got another humble host with me today on this MLK edition of the Atlanta Football Party. Aaron Freeman joins me, host of the Locked On Falcons. You all know who he is, the Falcons prophet, the Falcons man. He's going to dive into a couple of things with me today, but I also want to let you guys know the Atlanta Football Party is the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're free and available wherever you download your podcast. Wherever you download your podcast, make sure that you leave us a 5-star review.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase.
There's a very interesting name that I saw that the Falcons requested. Is that real? We'll talk about that. And also, we're going to put aside the old head coaching candidacy for a little while and dive into where the Falcons should go at the quarterback spot. But first, we got to get into it. Like the Falcons did a virtual interview with 5 candidates. Very interesting names, Aaron. And I'm going to run them off for those you don't know. Mike McDonald, Brian Callahan, offense coordinator for the Bengals. Mike McDonald, obviously the defense coordinator for the Ravens, one of the best defenses in the league. Steve Wilks, who's the defense coordinator for the 49ers. It seems like that's like a gateway to a head coaching spot nowadays. Ejiro, defense coordinator for the Carolina Panthers. Yes, they held the Falcons to 7 points, but who didn't hold the Falcons to under 20 points for 3 years?
Let's not talk about that. I'm still not over.
I understand. Perfectly understand. Yes, it's something about that rain in Carolina. It just doesn't mix with the Falcons anyway. But they interview him virtually as well. And last but not least, assistant head coach for the Baltimore Ravens and also defensive line coach Anthony Weaver. He did an interview with the Falcons as well. Now, Aaron, I know we've been had a lot of conversations on your podcast. And by the way, if you guys haven't checked out Locked On Falcons, like, what are you waiting on? I don't get it. Like, go ahead and check that out. We talked about like the head coach candidates and how we've been feeling. But now that we have like some hardcore interviews, well, not hardcore, virtual interviews, light interviews in place, let's just kind of stick with the names that we already know, right? Out of those names, do you first of all, let me say, do you like any of those names? And secondly, do you feel any of those guys are viable candidates to take over as head coach for the team?
Yeah, I think all 5 of these guys are legit candidates. I think all 5 of these guys make sense in certain ways, pros, cons for each one of them. I figured, Jarvis, if we do this next week after the Ravens play the Texans, presumably, assuming the Bills take care of business tonight against the Steelers, Mike McDonald's candidacy his star might shoot up, right?
Right.
If they can shut down that Texans offense that completely eviscerated the Browns this past weekend. But because it is Martin Luther King Day, I got to go with my guy, Anthony Weaver, on this group. He's an intriguing guy, right?
Right. Yeah.
He's been considered kind of a rising star, former player, a guy that, doesn't necessarily have the play calling experience because he hasn't been a coordinator in this league. But I think when you look at him and I think he's the type of guy that you look at in a similar way that you look at someone like a DeMeco Ryans, that could be that sort of culture builder, that could be that type of person that can, potentially be the first black head coach for the Atlanta Falcons. And so, I think that's going to be something that's going to be in major consideration for the Falcons this time around. And so, Weaver intrigues me in a lot of ways. So, a week from now, I might, switch gears to Mike McDonald. But, Weaver coming from that same Ravens organization and being guy that, if McDonald does wind up getting a job, probably is going to be the front runner to replace him as a defensive coordinator in Baltimore. He feels like a guy that, I think he's an up and comer. And so he's a guy that definitely intrigues me among this list.
To be honest with you, I'm kind of with you on that because when you think about where he comes from, right? He's up under John Harbaugh, who a guy where We don't know our offensive play caller. He wasn't a defensive play caller. He was a special teams coordinator. And I think that when you in that light, to be able to get into these rooms and interview with these team owners, I feel like you have to have that culture behind you, right? You have to have that team type of communicative type asset, right? Like, I think that has to be one of your best assets, because I think a lot of times we get focused in onto, okay, he's an offensive coordinator guy, or he's an offensive guy, or he's a defensive guy. But they're like, there are 33 units on 33 players that are on starting units on every Sunday, right? From offense, defense, special teams. And you got to be able to, maneuver between all of those rooms. So being specific on one side of the football, I just think that we kind of put a little bit too much weight on it, and obviously it's because, with the whole quarterbacking and all the weight being put on that position now, and the league being a offensive driven league, I feel like that's why we've gone down that road. But I feel like Anthony Weaver is an interesting candidate, because he's a guy that, not necessarily hadn't called plays on either side. Obviously, he's a guy that's worked mostly on the defense side of the football. But I think it's just something. It says something about a guy that is been a guy who's been in these interviews before, and they come from that coaching tree in John Harbaugh, where you're saying, all right, John Harbaugh was able to do it, and we've seen the most recent example we've seen of that is Dan Campbell, and for him to be able to, come off of being an assistant head coach with the New Orleans Saints. So how trendy teams are. So I think Anthony Weaver might be a good one to kind of keep an eye on, because if he interviews correctly and you see how that defense continues to perform like it did, like it has been, and under the play calling duties of Mike McDonald, I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Anthony Weaver starts to crest out of the weeds of all of these virtual interviews that as we've gotten started off in this thing. Now, I know we had our conversation about Raheem Morris, and there have been some reports that he might be the favorite if the Falcons don't land Bill Belichick. But have you kind of moved off of that since in the past couple of days, since we've seen what's been kind of coming to fruition with these interviews? Or are you still kind of set on like, okay, Raheem Morris is my guy? Or has your mind changed about Bill Belichick at all?
Well, no, my mind has not changed about Bill Belichick at all. My mind ain't going to change about Bill Belichick until the Falcons hire him and they're like 13-0, and then I'll be like, you know what? I think this Bill Belichick hire might be starting to work out. But 8-0, no, I still don't believe. But no, I'm kidding. I'm still on the Raheem Morris bandwagon. To me, like if you're going to ask me like who are my top two candidates, is Morris. It's probably Ben Johnson, the Lions OC, are probably my top two guys. We'll see about Johnson. His star is ascending, and I think there's a lot of rumors that Washington may be pursuing him pretty hard. But I'm still on the Raheem Morris bandwagon, even if they lost to Ben Johnson's Lions team. I thought they did. I thought Raheem Morris did an incredible job this season to basically take a roster of Aaron Donald and a whole bunch of other guys that no one has ever heard of. Dude,
Jags.
Yeah.
Carnell Lake's son, he's out there and nobody even mentioned it. I was like, man, y'all know that's Carnell Lake's son? I'm like, yeah. Normally they mention that type of stuff.
Just making lemonade out of lemons. That's basically what he did this season, and doing as good a job to try to keep a lid on that Lions offense that we've seen, have a lot of success this year, and put that Rams team in a position to win that game on Sunday, if only the offense had taken care of business there late in the game. But I'm still a big fan of Raheem Morris. So hearing those rumors that he may be number two, the plan B, if plan A is Bill Belichick, which I'm still not 100% sold on, is music to my ears.
Yeah, I'm with you because this Bill Belichick, I was looking at some numbers, man, and I came across one that it was kind of eye-opening, and said that no Super Bowl winning head coach has gone on to another team and won a Super Bowl with a different team. That has never happened in the history of the NFL. I think the last time that we saw that someone get close was Mike Holmgren. That was a very long time ago when he took the Seahawks to the Super Bowl, and they got handled pretty pretty well in the Super Bowl against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I think that, given the history of it and given what we've seen these past few years, and I'm not that person to say, hey, without Tom Brady, he's nothing. I'm not going that far. I won't go that far. That's actually just dumb in my eyes. But I will say that given what we've seen in these past few years, I think that has to have a lot more weight than what we've seen him accomplish over the past 24 years. So I'm with you on that. We'll put this head coaching conversation aside for a little bit, and we're going to jump into the quarterback position. What should the Falcons do? Should they go young? Should they go veteran? We'll discuss it next. This episode of the Atlanta Football Party is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the app, guys, for last-minute tickets, flash deals, and zone deals. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you ever been in a situation where you just been like, man, I need to get me some tickets. I don't know what's going on. This is the last minute. The playoffs going on. I got to see what's happening. You can't get in Atlanta because, hey, the Falcons aren't playing right now. But if you're a Green Bay Packers fan and you didn't think they were going to beat the Cowboys, I need you to go to Game Time app right now and use the code LOCKEDONNFL, and you're going to get $20 off. I'm talking about all-in prices, show you a total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. Buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps. 1, 2. And also, guys, I need you to take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. All you got to do is download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. LOCKEDON. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Also, guys, I want to tell you a little bit about Jace Medical. I know we come to sports to escape from some of the crazy realities of the world, but Jace case has got you covered. But we can talk just for a minute about preparing for real life. According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade. This is absolutely scary, y'all. I can't imagine a more helpless feeling than if my wife or my children or one of my kids got sick with a supply chain issue, kept them from life-saving medication they need. Thankfully, we got you covered right here at Jace Medical. So the Jace case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, sinus, skin infections, all this stuff, guys. This stuff couldn't happen to any of us. So visit jacemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medication will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It has never been more important to be prepared than today, guys. All I need you to do is go to jacemedical.com. That's jacemedical.com and use code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, to get $20 off your first order. All right, guys, it's the Atlanta Football Party. I'm your host, Jarvis Davis. I got my main man, Aaron Freeman, with a MLK edition of the Atlanta Football Party jumping off today. Guys, if you haven't downloaded us wherever you download your podcast, what the heck are you waiting on? And if you have, go ahead and leave us a 5-star review. That helps get the word out about all the good we got going on right here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Now, Aaron, one of the things that I thought was pretty interesting, I saw Matt Ryan talking about whether or not Bill Belichick would be a good fit for the Atlanta Falcons. And he was saying how if they want to go to the whole veteran quarterback route, they should consider Bill Belichick. But if they want to go a young quarterback in the draft, they probably should consider a younger head coach. I feel like you should have a plan regardless of who your head coach is. And for me, I'm leaning towards going with a young veteran. I kind of go in between. I don't know if I'm necessarily ready for a developmental guy, a rookie quarterback, because I feel like the defense is a little bit older than for that. But what say you? How do you feel about what the quarterback plan should be? going forward for the Atlanta Falcons?
Well, obviously it's mid-January, so we got a lot of stuff that has to get unpacked and unfold over the course of this offseason. Who's going to hit free agency, who's going to be in the trade market, what teams feel about this quarterback class. We know there's kind of 3 really good guys at the top of the draft that may be out of the Falcons range unless they're willing to try to go up and get one of those guys, which, I'm certainly open to that idea. And I think the Falcons will absolutely be open to that idea. But, I'm sitting here today, mid-January, thinking I think it's likely that the Falcons will probably go with both a veteran and a draft pick. Now, when they draft that player, whether it's a first-round pick, a second, third, fourth-round pick, remains to be seen. But I certainly think a new coach coming in here with a new offense is probably going to not necessarily be in love with the idea of inheriting Desmond Ridder and want to get his own sort of young developmental player in here. And then, so I guess for me, sitting here going like, I would like to see the Falcons basically double dip on both a veteran and a rookie, but it's still very early in the process for me to kind of wrap my head on who I want. And again, I think a lot of that has to do with who they bring in, what type of offense that person brings in, Justin Fields, maybe that young veteran that I think you're talking about, maybe Jarvis, Russell Wilson will be out there. He certainly, at least his wife has connections to Atlanta. I know, some future fans may not feel great about Russell Wilson playing in Atlanta, but the rest of the city might be able to get behind that. So, Jacoby Brissett, Tyrod Taylor, what happens with Kirk Cousins in Minnesota. So there's a lot of options available for the Falcons if they do want to go that veteran route. And certainly there's a lot of good quarterbacks in this draft class. There's only probably a few guys that you might say could be great in this draft class. So I think the Falcons have a lot of options available, and all that to say, Jarvis, is it's still very early in the process for me to kind of get that sort of focus on like, this is the guy. But like, I think the Falcons should be definitely very open-minded to kind of taking both from the veteran pool as well as the young player pool in the draft.
That's interesting. I think that because, of course, I would love to see Justin Fields in the Falcons uniform. Let me say that. But I think for me, I just think the mindset of the organization really matters as far as how they attack this quarterback spot. Because if let's just say, let's just go right out there. I know, we can play around with it. Hypotheticals are a part of the offseason. Bill Belichick gets hired. They bring in Russell Wilson. Does that get you excited? Does that say, you know what? This Falcons organization is going in the right direction?
Look, it's going to be hard for me to get excited about any direction that includes Bill Belichick, just because I just feel like he's such a short-term answer for this team rather than the long-term answer. And again, when we talk about, a Russell Wilson, given his age, like he's kind of a bridge quarterback. I think he's a pretty fancy bridge, right? He's got a lot of pedigree. You're like, this is some high quality stone that you put in this bridge, as opposed to the previous bridge quarterback that the Falcons had in Marcus Mariota.
It's a used luxury car that you might take a chance on.
It's hard to get excited about the direction of this team at this point in time with so many dominoes that have to fall. And so that sort of hypothetical doesn't really like get me super excited. Now, if you were to get Raheem Morris and Russell Wilson, like that might be a little bit more exciting in that regard, or one of these other sort of coaches that you feel like can connect a little bit better with Russell Wilson. But Bill Belichick and plus pretty much anybody is not going to necessarily get me too excited, but I know I'm a little biased on that one.
Oh, trust me, I'm with you. But I think just the overall where this organization is going, because I ain't gonna lie, man, being at that press conference last week, that bothered me. It really bothered me, because if you just would have seen how Rich McKay just sat up in his seat and said, yeah, I'm not a part of the day-to-day, but my input matters when it comes to the day-to-day operation. I was just like, what? And so when did this change? Because, I got Mark Zeno, friend of the show. he asked the question. It was like, okay, so what does that look like? And you guys told us that he wasn't part of any of the football operations or any of the football day to day. So when did this stuff start to change? And I'm just like, man, did Rich McKay get wanted to scratch an itch? Like, hey, AB, you know what I'm saying? I don't know, man. I've been really interested in this draft lately. I think you need to just have these two guys. God bless them. You know, first time head coach, first time general manager. You know, they got to answer to me. I think they need to answer to me, and I'll make sure they get it right, because you know when it comes to the draft, that's my specialty. You know, you remember when I drafted Jamal Anderson? You know, not Jamal Anderson, the running back. You know, so that's why I'm so kind of like down as far as about how this process goes, because I really feel like we should be thinking about the future. We should be thinking about potentially getting a young, guy in a draft and knowing, I know nothing is 100% guaranteed, but man, it'd be good to go into that thing where if the Falcons hire XYZ coach and they draft XYZ quarterback and they bring him in, it's a 65% chance that junk gonna work. Guess what, guys? That'll be a lot higher than my confidence has been these past 6 years or 6 or 7 years since the Falcons have not even sniffed the doggone playoffs. It's just, I guess that's why that was my big overall reason for asking that question, because it's just, when you think about where they're headed, I don't get excited about regardless of who they hire. It's hard to get excited about this organization overall, just given who's in charge and whose input matters.
Yeah, I think it's fair to question the direction of this organization, right? You know, this time last year, we were like, okay, Arthur Smith did some things in 2022.
Yeah.
Let's see what Desmond Ridder can do. You build up the team, and this feels like it's going in the right direction. And obviously that sort of hit a speed bump this past season. And so it leaves you sort of wondering, like, okay, what's the plan now? Are we still going down that path? But is this new coach going to want to do that and continue down that path and basically like, okay, I'll take the ball from Arthur Smith and I'll take it to the next level? Or is that new coach going to come in here and say, like, you know what? I don't like what you guys have done the last 3 years and I kind of want to tear it down. And are we going to be looking at another sort of mini rebuild or whatever you want to call it, reload, whatever, and then 3 years from now, we're be like, okay, this is our year now in 2027 or whenever that is. Those are all major questions that we have at this point in time. And until, the Falcons, have their next press conference introducing that head coach, like we're not going to really have any answers. And I think it's fair for you, me, and everybody else in this fan base to be very skeptical about what's going on with this football team.
Absolutely, man. We'll definitely have to keep an eye on it. We'll obviously keep you guys abreast of what's going on this whole entire process, regardless if we feel good about it or not. So, but there was an interesting name. Speaking of where to go and process, there's a guy name that popped up that the Falcons requested to interview. Would they really go that route? We'll discuss that next, right here on the Atlanta Football Party. Guys, Jarvis Davis here for FanDuel. This episode of the Atlanta Football Party is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel.com/lockedon. That is the website that you need to go to right now because the playoffs is underway. Everybody get their butts kicked. All the games were awful except for the Rams and the Lions. How about that? The Rams and the Lions were the best playoff game in a weekend, wild card weekend, or a super wild card weekend, whatever they call that crap right now. Hey, they should call it super. We added a couple extra teams so we can get some more money playoff weekend. So that's what it should be called. But anyway, guys, I want to get you guys some money right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Yes, you heard that correctly. New customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's 150 bets in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy. It's super safe. It's easy to use. There are so many different ways to bet, like live same game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. You can even make a parlay in the Parlay Hub. Go in and get in the Parlay Hub so you can get in the Parlay Club and get some money. It's the best way to find popular parlays, guys. FanDuel has everything that you absolutely could want. So I will need you to go to FanDuel.com/locked-on. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on, LOCKEDON, and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel is the official sportsbook betting partner of the NFL. Wrapping things up on the Atlanta football party with my main man, Aaron Freeman. I am Jarvis Davis, your host, and we are very, very happy to be with you right here on MLK, Martin Luther King Holiday Special Edition, guys, just for you. We came here just for you. I'm telling you, that's the only reason here, because of you guys. We're trying to serve you. Now, Aaron, I came across this report, man, and, I didn't know what to think. I didn't know how to feel because, some of these interviews that are being requested, and sometimes these guys taking these interviews, it get a little political, right? Because we all know that Antonio Pierce, who the Falcons requested an interview, is the pretty much the favorite to be the Las Vegas Raiders head coach. Max Crosby even said so. The man said, if y'all don't hire him, I'm out. I need a trade. Y'all need to trade me right now. And that's pretty doggone serious. That kind of tells you how he got that locker room galvanized, and those guys were able to turn things around once that dude went out of the organization. That dude that will come with Bill Belichick if he's hired to be the Falcons head coach. I'll let y'all do our research on that. We ain't got time to talk about that. But Aaron, if Antonio Pierce comes in, interviews for the Falcons, is there a real possibility that he could be the head coach of this team?
I mean, I wouldn't bet on it, but I saw that news and I'm like, I got two questions, right? The first question is,
yes.
I saw Antonio Pierce, what you did with the Raiders in the second half of that season. You turned that team around and you had one of the best defenses in the NFL. And so my first question is, like, how did you do this? Because, like, that's the mystery to me. So I would just, if I was
in season, without free agents and trades, none of that, like, you just scheme.
Yeah, so I'm just curious how you pulled that off. So that's part of, like, the first half of that interview is just going to be me like so what exactly did you do? Because we kind of need something like this.
We need that right now.
So, I just need to pick your brain and try to get some idea how you pulled off this miracle of turning that Raiders team around. And then I think the second reason is, it's like, I heard your boy Max Crosby, would demand a trade. So, is it possible? Is it possible that if we hired you, we could pull off this trade to get Max Crosby here in Atlanta? And I know, there's this guy that does the Locked On Sports Atlanta podcast has been wishing for a pass rusher of Max Crosby's caliber, one of the 5 best pass rushers in the NFL. It's like Myles Garrett, it's like Aaron Donald. It's
I need
like
some wet wipes.
PJ Watt and Max Crosby right there at the top of the league.
Some wet wipes.
And I'm just like, first half of the podcast, the interview is, hey, Antonio, how'd you do it? How'd you pull off this miracle? Because I got to figure that out. And the second half of the interview is just like, if we got you here, is Max coming with you? Because now I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. If you can do the work that you did in the second half of the season here in Atlanta, and you can get us Max Crosby, yeah. So to answer your question, Jarvis, I hope it's a real thing. If those two things connect, I'm like,
let me say something to all my Locked On Sports Atlanta folks and Locked On Falcons folks. Let me tell you something. If the Falcons are somehow able to get Antonio Pierce and he influences Max Crosby to come to walk through those doors at Flowery Branch, dude, I literally will go see Max Crosby when he finally puts on that Falcons uniform. I will ask to take a selfie with that man, because guess what, guys? That'll be the first person since John Abraham who I know for a fact on 3rd and long, it's going down. It's going down. And you get me excited, man. Like, because I know, I've been there. Anybody who's willing to listen, I will let them know that, Raheem Morris is my dream candidate. And it's interesting that he's basically going to be the second option reportedly, if the Falcons don't get Bill Belichick. But man, for Antonio Pierce would be my favorite if that were to come about, because Lord knows, I've been pounding the table for an edge rusher, man, for a very long time. And I hate to sound like a broken record. I know you guys think I enjoy that type of stuff. I don't like repeating myself. I have children. When I tell my daughters to do something, I want them to do it right then and there, like right now. I don't want them to wait. I want them to understand that Daddy is doing this for a reason. Daddy is doing this because it's going to benefit you the most. You see how this sounds familiar? There were 2 games, Minnesota and Arizona. If you would have put the quarterback on the ground, that's 2 wins, folks. And guess what? That's a winning record, 9-8. And guess what? That's outright winning the NFC South. So yeah, that crap matters. I understand the whole quarterback and offense, love, score points, yeah, all that good stuff. But man, when I'm telling y'all, pass rush matters. Pass rush matters, guys. But oh man, Aaron, man, you just got me excited, man. To be able to, Max Crosby in the black and red. Oh, you've made me so happy. Like, I knew there was a reason why we did this show today. Because Aaron's going to make me happy. He's going to make me happy, man. Wow.
Jarvis, do you have a dream? Do you have a dream?
I do have a dream that one day this doggone Falcons defense on 3rd and long, they will be able to come together. Mm-hmm. All the little white boys and all the little black boys could put their hand in the dirt. Mm-hmm. And when that quarterback says, Hike, it's going down. Uh-huh. And you already know that, hey, when we sacked the quarterback, we unified. And that was a dream. That's what Martin Luther King said. That's going to be the promised land. That's what promised land he was talking about. The Falcons getting 45 sacks as a team. That was a dream he was talking about. See, now you got me going. Now Dr. Bernice King about to be writing emails to ATL Day Ones at gmail.com, RIP ATL Day One. Ain't gonna have me get me in trouble, man. You trying to get me in trouble today, Aaron, man. See, I see what you be doing, man. You trying to set your boy up, dog. Don't do me like that, man. Don't do me like that.
I love it, Joe.
See? I love you too. See, we're going to end it right there because it's already off the rails and we ain't got nothing else to talk about, So, I want to say thank you guys for making Atlanta Football Party your first listen today. Why don't you go ahead and check out Locked On Falcons and make that your second listen today? I know Aaron got his episode up. That dude is always on point. Kind of a little bit of procrastinating, but we're working on that. It's 2024. It's a new year. I ain't talking about new me. I'm trying to add to all my good stuff. I got some good stuff. I'm just trying to add to it. But yeah, appreciate you guys for checking us out. And always, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And make sure you doggone hit that bell and be ready when all this heat get ready to drop. We'll see y'all tomorrow.